The tarmac sizzles under the unforgiving sun. Engines roar in the distance. Jet fuel stings the air. It's the kind of high-stakes setting where mistakes aren't just costly, they're catastrophic. A sleek private jet, silver and smug, sits dead on the runway at LAX. Its departure was scheduled for 15 minutes ago. Inside, a billionaire heiress, Ava Langford, heiress to the Langford global aviation empire, paces in fury while her entourage whispers nervously, eyes darting to the large glass window overlooking the stalled aircraft. Outside, tension tightens like a noose. A group of sharply dressed aviation engineers stand in a semicircle, shrugging helplessly as a white supervisor barks at them. He wears a pressed polo shirt with the Langford Air insignia, sunglasses perched arrogantly on his head. Standing slightly apart, hands greasy, jumpsuit clinging to his back with sweat, is him, the only black man in the group, the only one with tools in his hand, the only one who isn't talking, just listening. Dante Reed, 34, quiet eyes, steady hands, a mechanic with calloused knuckles and a master's mind. But out here, none of that seems to matter. Why is he even here? The supervisor snaps loudly, gesturing toward Dante like he's garbage blocking the view. He's not certified for corporate-level jet diagnostics. I want this jet fixed, not butchered by some hangar rat. The laughter that follows isn't loud, but it's sharp. Sharp enough to slice pride. A few engineers glance at Dante, smirking, before turning away like he's invisible. Dante doesn't flinch. He crouches near the open side panel of the jet, eyes scanning rows of wire harnesses. The problem isn't obvious. The onboard computer system's gone haywire. 3 diagnostics teams have failed to resolve it. Ava's flight is grounded until it's solved. From inside the tower, Ava watches the commotion. She sees the shouting, the pointing, the one man still kneeling in the heat while others stand in suits in judgment. She doesn't recognize him. Not yet. Back on the runway, the supervisor marches over. That's it. Everyone off. FAA protocol. We're calling in Langford's top-tier diagnostics unit. But Dante speaks, quietly. No need. I know what's wrong. Silence. The air practically freezes. The supervisor narrows his eyes. You know? Dante stands slowly, wiping sweat and grease on his rag. Cross-check the aux power bus with the inertial nav module. I'd bet the flight controller's misreading orientation because the magnetometer's throwing off false flags. The words land heavy. Technical, precise. Too precise. A beat passes. Then the supervisor scoffs. You just Googling that stuff, or you think you're some kind of genius, huh? Someone chuckles. Another engineer mutters under his breath, "This'll be fun to watch." Dante doesn't defend himself. He walks back to the panel, opens it further, and begins tracing cables with the confidence of a surgeon. The billionaire's jet sits motionless. The clock ticks. The pressure builds. And the man no one respects just rolled up his sleeves to try what everyone else failed to do. The injustice isn't just in their words. It's in the looks, the doubt, the deliberate public belittling of someone who knows but isn't allowed to matter. Not yet, but something's about to change. The wind kicks up around Dante as he kneels again beside the open belly of the aircraft. Tools in hand, he doesn't ask for permission. He doesn't argue. He just works. He's seen this kind of failure before. Not in corporate jets, but during a contract stint working on military-grade UAVs out in Nevada. Back then, no one knew his name either. But his hands remembered. He follows the hunch. Not just guesswork, intuition backed by experience. Something subtle, buried beneath layers of diagnostics that no standard software scan would catch. A hairline split in a critical wire shield. Too thin for most to see, but Dante knows what it means. It's not just about replacing parts. It's about understanding what they're trying to say before they fail. 10 feet away, the supervisor is mid-call, voice sharp. No, I don't care who they send. I want a Tier 1 team from San Diego, and I want them. The whine of an auxiliary power unit powering up cuts through his sentence. Heads turn. The jet flickers to life. Lights in the cockpit blink. A low hum begins to build under the fuselage. What the hell? One of the engineers mutters. Dante is still crouched, his hands steady on a connector. He's bypassed the glitching signal path manually, rerouting it with a temporary fix only someone intimately familiar with the aircraft's nervous system would attempt. And it's working. Ava Langford, still watching from inside the glass-paneled tower, sees it too. The jet, dead and still moments ago, is breathing. She narrows her eyes, pointing to the man beneath the wing. "Who's that?" she asks her assistant, not looking away. The assistant flips through the crew log. Dante Reed, contractor, not Langford staff. Hired through a third-party service last month for overflow maintenance. Does he have clearance to be touching the aircraft right now? She asks. No, ma'am, the assistant replies, half terrified. But Ava just watches. Down on the tarmac, the supervisor storms over. What the hell do you think you're doing? That's not protocol. Dante doesn't even look up. Protocol wasn't fixing it. You could have caused a systems short, a surge. Do you even understand what you're playing with? Dante finally turns. Calm, unshaken. If I hadn't, your Tier 1 team would have flown in just to tell you it needed to be towed back to the hangar. There's no applause, no pats on the back. The engineers nearby look uneasy, unsure whether to acknowledge what just happened or pretend they didn't see it. The supervisor's face twists. He doesn't want to admit it, but he knows it. That plane was dead, and now it's alive. Don't touch anything else, he says. I'll report this breach to operations. Dante doesn't argue. He wipes his hands, gathers his tools, and steps back like nothing happened. Inside, Ava taps her assistant again. Tell the captain to do a system check, right now. Minutes pass. The captain confirms. Systems read stable. The jet is cleared for immediate takeoff. She doesn't smile. She just nods and walks toward the elevator. On the tarmac, Dante is heading toward the gate's side exit, tools slung over one shoulder. He doesn't look back. Doesn't expect a thank you. But from the upper walkway behind the tinted glass, Ava watches him. She saw it. Not just the fix. The way he moved. The restraint. The precision. The quiet. There was no chest pounding, no bragging. He didn't solve the problem to be seen. He solved it because it needed solving. And that's what bothers her most. Because she's used to people fighting to be in her spotlight, not stepping into it by accident, and still walking away. That kind of confidence only comes from depth. And depth can't be bought. It can only be earned. Dante disappears through the side gate as the jet fires up behind him. The runway clears. No recognition. No thanks. But a spark has been lit. Someone saw. And curiosity has a long memory. 2 days later, the Langford Aviation boardroom hums with tension. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlook the sprawling private airfield. Executives gather in tailored suits, murmuring nervously. At the head of the table sits Ava Langford, poised but visibly unsettled. On the screen behind her, a paused video flickers. It's grainy but clear, a surveillance clip from the day Dante fixed the jet. The white supervisor, arrogant and dismissive, can be heard berating Dante as he works. Suddenly, the screen switches. Another clip. This time, an internal memo appears, stamped confidential. The text is blunt. Project Orion Flight Controller malfunction. Root cause traced to wiring flaws. First diagnosed by D. Reed on March 15th. The memo is signed by the company's lead engineer, dated weeks before the jet malfunctioned. Ava leans forward, eyes scanning the document. Why was this never escalated? Why was this report buried? Before anyone can answer, a sharp voice cuts through the room. It's Malik Evans, Langford's chief operations officer. His expression is cold, almost predatory. Because, Ms. Langford, that report threatened to delay our launch timeline. Production costs ballooned. Management decided it was safer to rely on external contractors. Dante Reed's findings were ignored, quietly shelved to avoid scrutiny. A gasp ripples through the room. Ava's gaze sharpens. And who made that decision? Malik shrugs, expression unreadable. I was involved in that discussion. A murmur rises from the other executives. Suddenly, a hand raises from the back. It's Natalie, one of the junior engineers who'd watched Dante work on the runway. Her voice trembles but holds firm. I have emails, messages from Malik, instructing us to discard internal safety reports that conflicted with projected schedules. I kept copies. I can share them. The room falls silent, eyes locked on Malik. The atmosphere shifts palpably. What was once corporate politeness becomes a courtroom. Ava signals her assistant, who projects another document on screen, a chain of emails where Malik explicitly orders concealment of critical safety findings to avoid delays. Malik's face tightens. These are taken out of context. Not when paired with this, Ava says, pulling out a recording from her tablet. The room listens in stunned silence as Malik's voice admits, during a private call, the project's schedule is king. If that means ignoring a few red flags, so be it. The weight of the words settles like a storm. Ava's voice breaks the silence, resolute. You endangered lives for profit. That ends today. Malik's composure cracks. You don't understand the stakes. This company, my decisions, kept Langford Aviation alive. Without cutting corners, we'd be bankrupt. But at what cost? Ava challenges. A contractor like Dante fixed what you ignored, and you tried to silence him. She turns to the rest of the room. We owe him the truth. Phones light up. Reporters stationed outside are alerted. The company's PR team scrambles. But inside the boardroom, the real revelation hits hardest. This wasn't just a mechanical failure. It was a systemic betrayal, a web of lies designed to protect profits over people. Natalie steps forward, voice firm. I stand with Dante. I've seen his work. He's not just a mechanic. He's the reason we avoided disaster. The executives shift uneasily, the power dynamic cracking. The room that once doubted Dante now begins to question everything. Ava's eyes find Malik's one last time. You're relieved of your duties, effective immediately. Malik slams his fist on the table. You're making a mistake. No, Ava replies, calm but fierce. We're making history. The room exhales collectively, the tension dissolving into an uncertain but necessary change. Outside, the sound of helicopters arrives. The press is here. For the first time, Dante Reed's name isn't whispered in shadows. It's spoken loud. It's spoken true. And the world listens. The conference room empties, replaced by the low murmur of reporters gathering outside the Langford Aviation headquarters. News crews set up cameras, microphones aimed at the polished glass doors, waiting for the announcement that would change everything. Inside, Ava Langford stands before a crowd of company employees, board members, and media representatives. Her posture is steady, voice clear, every word deliberate. We cannot build a future on silence and deception, she begins. Today, Langford Aviation takes a stand, not just for innovation, but for integrity. She pauses, scanning the room, locking eyes with familiar faces and strangers alike. Effective immediately, Malik Evans has been terminated from his position as Chief Operations Officer. His decisions compromise the safety of our fleet and betrayed the trust of this company and its passengers. The room reacts. Some nod, others shift uncomfortably, but no one challenges the declaration. Ava continues, we are initiating a full internal audit to ensure transparency and accountability in every department. No more shortcuts, no more concealed dangers. At that moment, the doors to the room open, and Dante Reed steps forward. A hush falls over the crowd. No longer the unseen contractor, no longer dismissed or overlooked. He is here to receive his due recognition. Ava gestures to him. Dante Reed, whose expertise and courage saved not only a billion-dollar aircraft but countless lives, is joining Langford Aviation as our lead system specialist. Murmurs ripple through the room. Dante's face is calm, but his eyes reflect something deeper. Relief, pride, and a quiet vindication. He steps to the podium, voice steady but warm. I didn't do this for recognition, Dante says. I did it because I care about the people who fly these planes, about the truth that shouldn't be hidden, and about the work itself. Applause swells, genuine, heartfelt. The narrative shifts in real time. The underdog has become the pillar. Outside, reporters capture the scene live. Headlines already forming, from overlooked mechanic to corporate hero, Langford Aviation's reckoning, safety over profit. Inside the company, structural change accelerates. Departments once siloed now coordinate. New safety protocols roll out, championed by Dante and Ava, working side by side. A dedicated task force investigates past oversights and ensures compliance with the highest standards. Langford Aviation also launches an apprenticeship program aimed at underserved communities, giving skilled technicians like Dante a clear path to leadership roles. The shift is profound. It's not just a company correcting mistakes, it's transforming its culture from the inside out. Months later, the impact is undeniable. Dante leads a team designing innovative diagnostics tools, reducing downtime and increasing safety across the fleet. Employees from all backgrounds feel seen and valued. The company's reputation rebounds, now synonymous with accountability and excellence. Ava reflects during a public speech at the company's newly inaugurated training center, dedicated to Dante's name. True leadership, she tells the gathered crowd, is about listening to voices long ignored and building systems where truth can thrive. Dante watches from the front row, a small smile playing at his lips. The power balance has shifted, justice delivered, and a new legacy begins. Months have passed since the storm that shook Langford Aviation to its core. The jet that Dante Reed fixed on the runway is no longer a whispered legend, but a symbol of transformation. It stands polished and ready in the company hangar, a testament to what happens when truth rises from silence. Dante's life has shifted dramatically, but the changes reach far beyond his own journey. He's no longer the invisible mechanic quietly slipping through gates. Now, as lead systems specialist, his days fill with meetings, designs, and mentoring. Yet despite the title and the growing respect, Dante's grounded by the very values that saved the jet and saved lives. In one quiet moment, he walks the training hangar, where a new generation of technicians learns under his guidance. Faces of all ages and backgrounds gather around the equipment he once repaired alone. The apprenticeship program Ava launched has blossomed into something bigger than either could have imagined. It started with a simple idea: give opportunity to those who have been overlooked, who possess skill but lack access. Today, the Dante Reed Technical Institute trains dozens of aspiring mechanics every year, with scholarships offered to those from underrepresented communities. Inside the Institute's lecture hall, Ava stands at a podium, speaking to a packed audience of students, staff, and aviation professionals. "We're building more than machines here," she says, voice steady and sincere. "We're building futures, futures shaped by integrity, by knowledge, and by the courage to speak up when it matters most." Ava gestures to the plaque beside her, inscribed simply, "The Dante Reed Training Center, where talent meets opportunity." The applause echoes with hope. Behind the scenes, the company has undergone an extensive overhaul. New safety oversight committees have been established, staffed with technicians, engineers, and even contractors like Dante, who bring frontline experience to decision-making tables. The audit that followed Malik Evans' removal unearthed troubling patterns: systemic silencing of safety concerns, profit-driven shortcuts. But it also sparked reform, shifting company culture from top-down command to collaborative accountability. The aviation industry took note. Competitors invited Langford Aviation's leaders to speak at conferences on corporate ethics and safety innovation. Regulators reviewed protocols nationwide, inspired by the transparency and thoroughness Langford now models. Even more powerful is the ripple effect on individual lives. Natalie, once a junior engineer uncertain whether to speak out, now leads a task force dedicated to workplace inclusion. Her voice carries weight, her story a beacon for young women and minorities navigating male-dominated fields. And Dante? He never forgot the moment on the runway, the cold stares, the dismissive words, the almost invisible line between being ignored and being seen. That moment became the fuel for his work. His mentorship goes beyond technical training. He teaches resilience, integrity, and the importance of owning your voice, no matter how small you feel in a room full of power. In one unforgettable ceremony, Ava and Dante co-host the inaugural Langford Aviation Integrity Award, recognizing employees who demonstrate courage and commitment to safety. As the first recipient steps forward, applause fills the hall, the spirit of justice and recognition alive and vibrant. The story of Dante Reed transcends the walls of Langford Aviation. In nearby communities, local schools have introduced programs teaching STEM through the lens of real-world challenges inspired by Dante's journey. Students who once thought such careers were out of reach now dream bigger, fueled by the example of someone who looked like them and rose. At a national aviation summit, Ava delivers a keynote speech. She recounts the story of the jet, the hidden wire, and the man who saw what others wouldn't. Her words resonate deeply. Innovation without integrity is a flight without a destination. It's our responsibility, not just as leaders, but as human beings, to ensure every voice is heard, every truth acknowledged, and every life valued. Back at the Dante Reed Training Center, a group of young apprentices gathers after hours, their laughter and chatter filling the space once silent. One of them, a teenager named Marcus, turns to his peers. "I want to be like Dante someday," he says. "Not just a great mechanic, but someone who makes sure the right thing gets done." The others nod. Hope, once fragile, has taken root. It's clear, this is no longer just one man's story. It's a legacy that rewrites the rules, breaks barriers, and lights the way forward. In the darkest moments, true strength is shown not by who stands tallest, but by who chooses to stand for what's right, even when the world looks away. If this story touched you, subscribe to the channel and follow us for more stories that prove dignity, truth, and justice still matter.